Hello everyone, and welcome to my Sister Wives For You channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Janelle Brown has never been one to stir unnecessary drama, but as the Sister Wives story unfolds in 2025, she has found herself in a position where silence is no longer an option, and fans have been left stunned after whispers turned into loud revelations. Kody Brown, the patriarch who once flaunted a life of plural marriage and big dreams, is allegedly bankrupt, unemployed, and more financially dependent than ever, forcing the women who once carried his family vision to confront the cold, hard truth of his failures. For years, Janelle stayed by Kody's side, not because she was blindly devoted, but because she genuinely believed in the principle of building something together, of creating stability for their children, and of working toward that long-promised dream of homes on the Coyote Pass property. Yet the cruel irony is that Janelle, who invested her money, time, and heart into that vision, is now the one exposing that Kody has little to show for his supposed leadership beyond debt, financial mismanagement, and a dependence on the very women he alienated. The cracks in the Brown family empire have been visible for years to fans of the TLC show, but Janelle's alleged confirmation of Kody's bankruptcy, whether through her subtle Instagram remarks, her offhand comments about being left with nothing, or her revelations in behind-the-scenes chatter, has magnified what viewers long suspected, that the man who strutted across the screen boasting about his ability to provide, his vision of leadership, and his righteous belief in plural marriage was in fact living off the financial sacrifices of his wives, and without them, his empire has collapsed into dust. Janelle's story is particularly compelling because she was always the wife most aligned with financial prudence, the one who worked stable jobs, studied real estate, invested in businesses, and carried much of the load while Kody chased ideas that never materialized, whether it was buying new homes in Flagstaff they couldn't afford, uprooting the family for moves that made no financial sense, or insisting on pouring energy into Coyote Pass, a property that remains barren land after years of talk and little action. In recent months, Janelle has subtly suggested that Kody has not held steady employment, relying instead on sporadic TLC checks and the goodwill of Robin, the last remaining wife by his side, but even that financial security appears to be faltering as TLC allegedly reevaluates the longevity of Sister Wives and Kody faces mounting legal and financial obligations. What fans are beginning to realize is that Kody's image of being in control has always been something of a performance, a carefully curated facade that crumbled once Christine, Janelle, and Mary stepped away, leaving him to face the harsh truth that he is not only a husband without wives, but a man without the income streams those wives provided through their collective labor. Janelle exposing his financial ruin is not an act of revenge, but a raw admission of reality, and it is heartbreaking yet validating for viewers who always questioned how the Browns funded their sprawling lifestyle in Las Vegas, their multiple mortgages in Flagstaff, and the endless relocations that disrupted their children's lives. In fact, Janelle's words hit even harder because she has consistently been the wife who balanced emotional restraint with practical wisdom, rarely succumbing to sensationalism, but when she speaks, her truth carries weight, and fans are listening closely as she paints the picture of a Kody who is unemployed, financially reckless, and dependent on Robin in ways that humiliate the once proud patriarch. This shift in power dynamics is striking. Kody, who once demanded loyalty, obedience, and financial contributions from four wives, is now stripped of that collective support system and left clinging to one household that itself struggles under debt, while the women who left him, especially Janelle and Christine, have built new financial independence through side businesses, sponsorships, and newfound personal freedom. Janelle has particularly emphasized how much she sacrificed, recalling how she drained her own savings to pay for family expenses, supported the children's education, and even fronted costs for the Coyote Pass property, only to find herself starting from scratch after the divorce, while Kody still struts around talking as if the land, the family name, and the brand are his alone. To many fans, it feels like poetic justice that Janelle, the woman who was often underestimated in the family dynamic, is the one now exposing the truth and reclaiming her narrative, turning Kody's bankruptcy into a lesson for women everywhere about the dangers of financial dependence on controlling partners. Behind the drama, however, lies a deeper tragedy. The children of the Brown family, who once believed in their father's vision, now see the reality of a man who has failed not just financially, but emotionally, with his estranged relationships serving as evidence of how money and control became more important than unity and love. As Janelle continues to rebuild her life, sharing glimpses of her wellness journey, her detox programs, her career pivots, and her quiet but powerful self-sufficiency, her revelations about Kody's downfall resonate beyond just reality TV gossip. They reflect a broader cultural conversation about how patriarchal systems often exploit women's labor while leaving men unprepared to stand alone when those women withdraw their support. The image of Kody bankrupt and unemployed is shocking not only because of the irony. He who once boasted about his leadership is now the one being exposed as incapable, but also because of how clearly it underscores the sacrifices Janelle and the other wives made, sacrifices that went unappreciated until it was too late. Financial dependence has long been a theme in plural families, but Kody's story is amplified by the platform of TLC, and now viewers across the world are witnessing a real-time unraveling of a man who failed to live up to his own rhetoric, and a woman, Janelle, who has emerged stronger, freer, and more financially savvy than the husband who once tried to keep her in line. What remains to be seen is whether Kody will acknowledge his financial ruin, whether he will attempt to rebuild through new ventures, or whether his dependence on Robyn will lead to further collapse. But one thing is certain, Janelle's exposure of his bankruptcy has forever altered the sister wives' narrative, shifting sympathy toward the women who carried the burden and casting Kody not as the leader he wanted to be remembered as, but as a cautionary tale of arrogance, financial mismanagement, and misplaced priorities. Kody Brown is no longer the untouchable patriarch of a thriving plural marriage empire, but rather a man whose world has visibly shrunk to one house, one wife, and dwindling finances, and the contrast between his past bravado and present vulnerability has created a storm of fan reactions that refuse to quiet down, especially as Janelle subtly but firmly peels back the layers of deception surrounding his so-called financial stability. For years, Sister Wives viewers speculated that TLC paychecks kept the family afloat, that Kody never had a steady income outside of reality TV and small ventures that failed to take off, and that the wives, particularly Janelle and Christine, were the ones who truly hustled to ensure bills were paid, kids were supported, and the family's multiple mortgages did not fall into ruin. Now that Janelle herself has allegedly confirmed much of this, either directly in interviews or indirectly through her candid Instagram lives and post-divorce reflections, the confirmation carries far more weight than fan theories ever could, because if the woman who stood beside him for nearly 3 decades admits he is financially unstable, unemployed, and dependent, it validates everything viewers suspected about the imbalance within the Brown household. The tragic irony is that Kody was once obsessed with the optics of being seen as a successful provider, using the show as a platform to preach about his responsibilities as a husband and father, but the real success stories are the very women he demeaned or dismissed, like Janelle carving out independence through health coaching and wellness work, Christine leveraging her social media presence into new ventures, and even Mary holding on to her bed and breakfast and independent business identity. Meanwhile, Kody, the supposed leader, is painted as unemployed, reliant on TLC checks that may no longer guarantee the kind of income they once did, and dependent on Robyn's household for emotional and financial survival. The public humiliation of this reality is striking because Kody has always been fiercely protective of his image, whether by insisting he was building something great at Coyote Pass, portraying himself as the misunderstood patriarch in family conflicts, or dismissing criticism about his favoritism toward Robyn. Yet none of those narratives hold up when the financial receipts are laid bare. And Janelle's words cut through the smokescreen by forcing viewers to acknowledge that beneath the bravado, there was never much financial substance. Fans have long scrutinized the Coyote Pass property taxes, the multiple Flagstaff mortgages, and the costly moves from Las Vegas, and many now argue that these decisions were reckless financial blunders fueled by Kody's ego rather than logical, family-centered planning, and Janelle's revelations only add fuel to that fire, suggesting that Kody not only made poor choices, but failed to take accountability for them. Instead, it was often Janelle who had to pick up the slack, working traditional jobs, balancing budgets, and pouring her resources into family goals that never materialized. That is why her current stance feels both heartbreaking and empowering. Heartbreaking because she admits she left the marriage with nothing after giving so much. Empowering because she refuses to be quiet about the truth and has instead redirected her focus toward building a new life on her own terms. Her decision to expose Kody's financial instability is not only personal but symbolic, a statement that women who sacrifice for men who fail to lead should not be shamed for finally telling the truth. The Sister Wives fanbase has responded in waves of outrage, sympathy, and validation, with many taking to social media to applaud Janelle's bravery, while dragging Kody for the hypocrisy of pretending to be in control while in reality, depending on others. Many point out that Kody's insistence on uprooting the family to Flagstaff created a financial nightmare that never recovered, and that if not for the wives' contributions, the family would have collapsed years ago. Now that those wives have left, the collapse has finally caught up to him, and Janelle's confirmation of his bankruptcy paints the image of a man who cannot hide behind plural marriage optics anymore. Even more humiliating is the implication that Kody is dependent on Robyn, the wife he elevated above all others, the one who supposedly had the most influence in his decision-making, because viewers note that her financial situation has hardly been perfect either, with debt reports surfacing around their Flagstaff home and her limited ability to generate income outside of the TLC cameras. If Kody truly is unemployed and bankrupt, then his dependency on Robyn is fragile at best, and fans predict that it will only be a matter of time before cracks appear in that relationship as well. Janelle exposing this dynamic hits at the heart of Kody's pride because he has always prided himself on being the one in control, but her words dismantle that illusion and replace it with the sobering reality of a man who has burned bridges, alienated children, and lost financial independence. For longtime viewers, the symbolism is almost cinematic. Kody, once surrounded by wives and children, now clinging to one household while his financial empire crumbles, while the women who left him rise like phoenixes, carving out new lives that highlight just how much of their energy sustained the family all along. Janelle's voice, calm yet firm, serves as the final nail in the coffin of Kody's image as a provider, because when the practical wife, the financial realist, and the silent backbone of the family says he is bankrupt and dependent, it is no longer gossip, it is fact. This revelation may also influence the future of Sister Wives itself, because if Kody is truly bankrupt and TLC scales back production, he may have no choice but to continue leveraging his personal life for income, meaning Janelle's exposure could ironically force him to confront his financial ruin on camera. Viewers speculate that this could either create one of the most dramatic seasons yet or mark the slow death of a show that once thrived on the illusion of a functioning plural marriage. But regardless of what happens on television, the narrative has shifted permanently. Kody Brown is no longer the man holding power over his wives, but the man exposed by them, and Janelle's words echo louder than any storyline TLC could script. For women watching, especially those who have experienced financial imbalance in relationships, Janelle's story is a cautionary tale but also a beacon of strength, proving that it is never too late to reclaim independence, even after years of sacrifice. For Kody, it is a devastating fall from grace, from patriarch to dependent, from leader to liability, and the world is watching as the man who once seemed unstoppable now faces the consequences of his own arrogance.